You're tuned in to the MtG Cable cast, where they cover Magic, the Gathering Finance. All right? You don't know about it? You're tuned in right now and get ready to learn some shit. Buckle your seat belts and light a blunt and get ready for the MtG Cable cast. Starring Reptar and Thirsty, them onion head motherfuckers.
Alrighty, guys, welcome to the newest episode of the Cabal Cast, and this week we're doing our dive into Mama, March of the Machine, now that it's here-ish.
Yes.
What cards we think, as usual, overvalued, right at the right price, and which are under. So we got the Goldilocks treatment here. It's going to be an interesting one. This is, as far as we know, one of the most open sets for the first week. As of the first day, I think in the serialized group, they said something like close to 10% of all of the serialized cards in the set had been hit, which is wild for that much product to have been opened at pre-release. But it's worth noting, cards are legal at pre-release now, and there was a Star City event with a modern event and some RCQs opening weekend. So you got to get them opened up quick. So with that, let's get it started.
Yep. So starting out with overpriced, I had a couple options in front of me, but the one I want to stick with most is just flat Urbrask. And this one, it took me a while to remember that these are just Praetor named. They don't have any superlatives.
No.
Yeah. So Urbrask, like the other Praetors, is a creature on one side, a Saga on the other, with an ability to transform. And it reads 2 and 2 red for a 4/4 first strike. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urbrask deals 1 damage to target opponent, add a red mana. Then you can pay 1, exile Urbrask, and return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Only activate as a sorcery, and only if you've cast 3 or more instant and/or sorcery spells this turn. So we're looking to chain our spells. Cool.
Yep.
Then on the backside, we have a Saga, the Great Work. Chapter 1, the Great Work deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Alright, cool. You get Volcanic Fallout. Chapter 2, create 3 treasure tokens. Sure, so now you refund 3 of the mana that Urbrask cost. And then Chapter 3, until end of turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. Then you exile the Great Work and return it to the battlefield. So it will be front face up, so it will become Urbrask again. Yep. So basically you get Past in Flames, but for everyone's graveyard. And right now, the card is sitting at 18 and has been holding steady. When I took my notes for this, I noticed that because I was actually looking at the majority of the Praetors to decide on which ones I wanted to talk about, and it was a tie between Elish Nord and this, but all the Praetors had trended up slightly over the past few days, and then basically hit a ceiling, and sales stalled. So this is kind of where we are right now. It looks like we are kind of right priced for the moment, but I believe this card is overpriced slightly. I think this sits somewhere between $12 and $15, as it is a commander combo card in the long run. That's basically all you're doing, and I think it works really well alongside Kaikar. And Kaikar is basically the same thing in Jeskai colors. I don't know why I didn't bring that up, but Kaikar reads: Flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Sacrifice a spirit, add a red. So basically, you can be creating a spirit and adding a red mana to your mana pool with both Kaikar and Urbrask, then sacrifice that spirit to refund an additional red. So it just kind of lets you go. It lets you chain even more, even faster. And I think these two are going to work pretty harmoniously together. I don't think Urbrask is going to be that great in the command zone. It'll be good in the 99. Going back to the flip side, I do believe that Chapter 1 is the most impactful chapter of this. Chapter 2 is hot medium, and Chapter 3 is not really game ending, but novel.
Yeah.
Because it takes so long to get there, because this only ticks up in your upkeep unless you're proliferating it. And unless you're doing that because you're in additional colors past Urbrask, so you are playing Kaikar, which affords you blue and more spells with proliferate, then I don't see you chaining through these abilities that quickly. And so the novelty of Chapter 3 is going to wear off very quickly, but the idea of getting an early Urbrask down, chaining a couple spells, flipping it to the backside, hitting somebody for 3, and then clearing their board is really where Urbrask is going to shine overall, when you're not just straight combo killing with the front side. It also works really well with the card from Call Time. The backside's a horn, but the front side is the one that makes mana. I can't remember. It's played in Storm.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember which one, because Call Time was a garbage tier set, but I know what card you're talking about.
All I can think of is Toski, and that's way wrong.
Yeah.
That's a green squirrel. But
it is.
It's basically just kind of play along with this already existing suite of cards and just kind of bolster that strategy. And as such, I really don't think that it's going to hold its price long term. It's Bergie, God of Storytelling. Whenever you cast a spell, add a red. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Right? So now you have this kind of interesting suite of cards that play really well together with Kaikar in the command zone. And so as a supporting piece, I really like Urbrask in a deck like this. Or even with Bergie at the helm. I do not like Urbrask at the helm of this deck because it's a little more limiting than both Kaikar and Bergie. Mm-hmm. And overall, like I said, right now it's 18. I don't think that is the long-term price. I think it settles at 12, maybe 15 at the ceiling.
Yeah, and I think, there's two reasons that I very much agree with this. And one is, and this is going to be a running theme when we do these episodes in the era of collector boosters, a rare card in a collector's set is rarely going to be over $20 unless it's Ledger Shredder. Mm. You know what this isn't? Ledger Shredder. The other thing is that what I see everyone hyping up is, like you said, step 3. It's Yogg-Will, right? But the only reason Yogg-Will is good is because you get to choose when to cast it.
Yeah.
You get to build your graveyard up first. And sure, you get to choose when you flip Urbrask, but also you have to wait 3 turns before you actually get it. To me, that's just not good.
No.
Like all of the reasons that you stated, I completely agree with, and it's just not. It doesn't strike me as a card that will be as prevalent throughout Magic, not just EDH, not just 60 card formats, to be that rarity of being a rare in a collector booster area that's over $20. I just don't see it happening at all. So,
all right.
Definitely agree with it.
Kicking it over to you.
Yes. My over, and we will echo a similar sentiment here, is Wrenn and Realmbreaker. So first off, this card's nuts. 2 green, 1, 4 loyalty. Lands you control have Painless City of Brass. +1, land becomes a 3/3 Vigilance Hexproof Haste until your next turn. It's still a land. -2 is the one that really, really pushes it over for me. Is -2, mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the milled cards into your hand. That's very good.
Yep.
Now, obviously, it has to be among those 3. Fine. Whatever. But this is similarly not something that I see being an absolute rock star across EDH and 60 card formats. No. Which is why Ledger Shredder is so popular, because it does see play in some CEDH lists, it does see play in EDH lists, and it sees play in Pioneer, importantly, because it's Pioneer season. I think Wrenn and Realmbreaker is very good. I think there is absolutely a world where, similar to Urbrask, it's at that like $10 to $15 ceiling, and I think that's more than reasonable. I do not think that this is a $20 card, which is where it sits now as a rare. Is it aggressively costed? Absolutely. Yeah. Does it get bigger to protect itself? Absolutely. It also has an emblem that sucks.
Yep.
I get to play lands and cast permanent spells from my graveyard.
Hootie
cool. That's it. That's what I get. That just doesn't feel good. It doesn't build so much. Now I like this as a value engine, but unless you're Sylvan Library, which even then I'd only run 2 in Legacy, I don't know what deck is going to want 4 Wrenn and Realmbreaker. It's just not as good as Wrenn and 6.
Nope.
I don't see this existing in that world because it's not a foundational piece. It's an accent that helps you do something else, but there's nothing about this card that screams build around me, or I go into so many engines that are just you doing the things you do, like drawing cards in the case of Ledger Shredder.
Mm-hmm.
I think within the next month or two, barring something insane, this card's below $10 easy. I think it's a $5 to $7 card for a while. And maybe we will hit a world where it's above $15, but I think that's the high-end ceiling of this card for a bit.
I agree with that. Ren and Realmbreaker is a card that for some reason screamed Jeskai Ascendancy to me when I first saw it. And
it would be great for that.
Yeah, because you get to return the permanent, right? So even if you mill over the Ascendancy, you get to put it back into your hand with Ren and Realmbreaker. It makes it pretty easy, but the rest of that exactly just doesn't really synergize with anything else. The +1 is cute in that deck because you do get to untap your lands, and it does make it easier for that deck to afford all its spells in a 4-color shell. So it's a Planeswalker that can win the game, but I don't even know if you play more than a 1-of in that deck if you play it at all.
Yeah.
Beyond that, the comparison point that I have for this is Chromatic Lantern that's also a Planeswalker. And so, yeah, for your base green deck or what have you, I think that's pretty cool and pretty interesting. But do I like it more than Nissa Who Shakes the World? I don't think so.
I don't think so in 60-card formats, and certainly not in EDH, where you can just... Nissa just ends the game if you've got your doublers out.
Exactly.
So the thing that really kind of is the nail in the coffin for it to me is, you touched on the comparison of Chromatic Lantern. Yeah, that's a great effect that goes in every deck because it's colorless. You know what color has infinite fixing already? Green.
Yeah.
Why do we need more? Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Prismatic Omen, Joiner Adept. There's tons of cards that do this.
Yeah.
This doesn't do anything special because, okay, I make my land a dude. Well, Who Shakes the World and World Waker both did that. Getting stuff back is fine. Again, green has a lot of options for that. And the emblem is just Ramanop Excavator and a side that green doesn't particularly care about.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't think this is a $20 card. I think this is going to follow the same trajectory that Ren and 7 had, which is not straight into the dumpster, but straight to an $8 card, which is where I think this is
fine.
Yeah. I think it has a little more utility than Ren and 7, 100%.
Agreed.
Because that minus is pretty interesting, especially in Commander and other formats. It works well with Loam. We've talked about that. And so, maybe it does find itself as as a unique alternative piece to an engine. It's something else that can be afforded to you when you're playing that kind of deck. Otherwise, I just don't think that card is really going to stand up to the test of time in regards to this pricing. Now, moving on to a card that I think is just the right price. I believe that right now, Tribute to the World Tree is just about the right price. It is currently sitting at somewhere between $5 and $6 TCG, and it is a 3 mana enchantment, triple green, that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is greater than 3. Otherwise, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. And we talked about Temur Ascendancy, which does something similar in regards to drawing a card, also gives your creatures haste. There is the Great Henge, which puts +1/+1 counters on creatures and makes mana. There are a number of options for additional card draw when a creature ETBs if its power is greater than X effects, and I think Tribute to the World Tree is a really good second banana to the Great Henge in decks that can afford to play the Great Henge in both Commander and Pioneer.
Yeah.
I think, and that is why I think the price is currently being buoyed at about $5 to $6. I believe in the long run, this is easily a $5 to $6 card. Do I think it's going to last for the short run? No, I do not. Why? Because this is a regular rare in the set, and I have a hard time believing that any regular rare in the set isn't going to crater over the next couple of weeks. Now that people can buy boxes from their LGS on pre-release weekend, because several sets ago WotC threw LGS as a bone, we should continue.
Thanks, guys.
We saw a huge glut of quantity hit the open market. Pre-release orders have yet to sell when ordering from larger entities, vendors, etc. So there's not maximum quantity on the market, but once that hits, then we'll see the regular rares drop in price. Eventually, This will pick back up, and we should again see this right where it sits. We are in Pioneer season for the Pro Tour or the Pro circuit, so who knows? This could recover a little bit better. It might hold fairly well, but no matter what, I think right where we are is to be expected. If it does end up holding, then it's going to be because mono green is going to be good in Pioneer. That's really it. I don't think that's the only thing that's going to prop this up, and I can't really see into the future when it comes to Pioneer, because as we've been talking about in the Discord, things are a little in flux right now. A lot of people are working with Rona in a lot of different shells, and mono green has really no play against that deck as far as I can tell.
No.
So if the format does shift, like we have talked about a number of times, mono green might fall, this tanks a little bit, and then it recovers. But I think it is just right.
I actually like this card a lot. This is one where I think it might actually be long-term undervalued. And the reason being, it gives green something it doesn't have in card draw, which for EDH is great. And making things big in green is awesome, because the thought of like throwing an Avenger down and just drawing a bunch of cards sounds pretty sick, because green 100%. Makes tokens. So this, I think it is definitely appropriately priced, but I think there may be a world where it's underpriced just because casuals gobble this card up. I don't know if we're in that timeline, but that may be. This is, I think, of all of the cards in the set, when I went over the spoilers, this was the one that I looked at, and I think this one actually has better long-term legs than just about any other card in the set.
Yeah.
At least in terms of liquidity. And even if it stays at $5 forever, that's great, because it's going to be an incredibly liquid $5. It's going to be a $5 card that you can buy for $3 at a booth, because you know you're going to sell it in 30 seconds. Which I like those $5 bills as a buyer, or those $3 bills, because those like 1 to 3 stacks really fill up a buy quick.
True.
So I just think this card's great. Also, I love the art.
Yeah.
But,
and much like your pick that we're going to move on to shortly, it offers 3 pips in a singular color, which means there's like I mentioned mono green and Pioneer, and Nykthos is a card that powers that deck. Similarly in Commander, Nykthos is going to help power this card. This card is going to help power Nykthos, and I think it's going to lend long-term opportunity to this. And then
I think so.
Moving into your just right card, we have
Shark Typhoon at home, and that would be Chrome Host Seed Shark. So this card's sitting at like $2 to $3 right now. It's blue and 2 for a 2/4 flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate X for mana value. This is just something that I see as a really good, like, not just control finisher, but a tempo finisher. Where, all right, I'm just casting these non-creature spells and getting free advantage out of it, because I'm going to cast my 3 fairies anyways. I'm going to cast my negates on your stuff. I'm going to cast Force of Negation. Whatever the case may be, this is just something that gives control lists, especially in Modern, an extra kind of value engine that also happens to have a big butt. The 4 toughness on this is probably actually my favorite part of the entire card.
It is oddly good.
Yeah, it hits, it dodges all of the right removal that you really have to worry about as the control deck. And you know what it also does? Blocks everything Burn can throw at you.
That's true. I played a lot of X versus Is It Delver this weekend, and I'll tell you, having 3 or less toughness is
awful.
Yeah, 100% miserable in any format where you can play at least 4 lightning bolts. And this is fantastic for that.
And it's just something that rewards you for doing what your game plan is anyway. It's basically the exact opposite of what Ren was. This just goes in, I am casting spells. Like, I want to control the game and basically, like, save the queen. You know, I have this one threat I'm going to protect. And that's going to win me the game. And I'm going to remove you out. I'm going to control magic you out. Whatever the case is, I'm going to run a bunch of interaction and save the queen. And this just happens to be a queen that's similar to the one that Ripley kills in every movie, lays a bunch of eggs. and provides more movies. But I think $2 is about appropriate for this, and that is because, again, we're in the collector booster world. There's going to be a ton of this card open. The one thing I will say is I could definitely see this picking up steam in 60 card formats. And if that happens, rather than being in the $2 to $3 range, maybe we get to the $3 to $4 range.
Woo-hoo.
Woo!
Yeah.
But I think between $2 to $3 is great for this card because I don't think this is something that necessarily, like, sure, I can see people throwing it into EDH decks because, like, I'm casting a bunch of non-creature spells, but it doesn't just scream auto-include the way that other blue cards do. So
there's this interesting thought or pattern that I realized where this card is more similar to me to Metallurgic Summonings.
Oh, yeah.
Than it is necessarily to Shark Typhoon.
That's fair, actually, yeah.
And Metallurgic Summonings is from Kaladesh, 3 double blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create an XX colorless construct artifact creature token, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. And this is the precursor, well, a precursor to Shark Typhoon. And then we have this. And the reason I think Metallurgic Summonings is a little more relatable to this card than Shark Typhoon is neither Chrome Host, Seed Shark, nor Metallurgic Summonings have flash.
True.
So there's the upside of cycle my Shark Typhoon for 3, which is the upfront mana value of Seed Shark, right?
Yeah.
But you get a 1/1 flyer and a redraw. That's the benefit. You pay 1 blue for a 1/1 flyer, you know?
Yeah.
After that, I think the comparisons are very, very apt. But I think Chrome Host Seed Shark might be a little more favorable and constructed than Typhoon was. Typhoon was very difficult to cast as an enchantment. It costs, was it 5 or 6 or something? It is a lot to slime that card. This costs 3, and like Young Pyromancer, kind of just does its thing immediately.
Yeah.
There is a little more to do to turn your incubated tokens, your incubator tokens, whatever they are, into actual creatures. It takes a little while to get there, but it allows you to play a similar game to Young Pyromancer. So I think it might have more play overall to it than Shark Typhoon. Now, that is to say that both of those cards have much more play to them than Metallurgic Summonings, which is basically just a Spellslinger commander card, and that's that. It's just this kind of weird comparison point that I thought about over the weekend. I was like, oh yeah, like Metallurgic Summonings, it had a bump. It was really good for a while. It came back down to the ground. It is very limiting in what it does compared to the other options in its space, despite the fact that it does have an activated ability to kind of give you everything back.
Yeah.
But I do think Chrome Host Seed Shark is just a better option overall. It comes down earlier, it attacks, it blocks, and then its tokens just linger. You can't kill them until they're creatures, which plays really interestingly in constructed formats. If you can just wrangle control of the game and have a handful of incubator tokens kicking around, you can eventually turn the corner, regardless of how big they are. And I think...
it's just overwhelming advantage.
Yeah, and I think overall this is going to be a really good card. There's no alt art for it. It's just extended art.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a super premium version of this card. And I think for, the $2 to $3, whatever it is right now, I think that's a perfectly fine price for it. Long term, if it does see more play, if it does fall into formats alongside Young Pyromancer, then maybe this does push up a little bit more, just like Tribute to the World Tree. But otherwise, I agree. I think this is spot on.
All right, what do you have for underpriced?
So this one took me a really long time because
Same.
I was looking around and it was hard to pick a rare for this that I thought was underpriced because I think they're all just going to head nose first into the ground, right?
Yeah.
So I thought all rares effectively at this point are overpriced. So I got to start taking a look at mythics. And I was actually on Dawnglare just looking at things. And I realized that Invasion of Ravnica, at the time of my notes, was a solidly $2 card. And now it's down to about $1.50 on TCG Player. And this is a battle. And I'm not very high on battles overall because I think they are just like purposefully obtuse and difficult and unwieldy.
Yeah.
But this is a battle where the front side is really good. This is a 5 mana battle. It's just 5 generic. When Invasion of Ravnica enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls that isn't exactly 2 colors. It then flips into an artifact creature construct that is a 5/5. Whenever you cast a spell that's exactly 2 colors, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a card that's exactly 2 colors from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And yeah, hardy har har, Ravnica is all about 2-colored guilds. That's the joke. We get it. But this is a 5 mana sorcery that can effectively exile any non-land permanent, as long as it's not 2 colors.
2 colors.
Which makes it 2 mana cheaper than Scry from Existence, the only other spell that can exile a permanent that is purely colorless. That isn't Karn Lib.
Yeah.
Up top, right? And Karn Lib also costs 7. Or, yeah.
Yep.
1 plus 1 is 7.
Yes.
1 plus 1 plus 1 is 7? Whatever it is.
1
Whatever
plus
that
1 plus
shirt
1 is 7. Yeah.
Right. So, for $1.50, you can exile any non-land permanent that isn't exactly 2 colors. I think that's fantastic, especially for a mythic with no other treatment. That's it. It's just this treatment.
Especially, I mean, I get it. Battles are everywhere, but they're not in collector boosters.
Nope.
They're not guaranteed in collector boosters the way that they are in set and draft. And that's fine, but like this is a mythic that, like you said, it answers everything.
Yeah.
How many decks when you first started playing EDH had Karn Liberated in them?
This is something we talked about. I think the Karn Lib was everywhere from cubes to commander because it was exactly that, a purely colorless way to get rid of anything. You needed that in every deck because it
especially
was just...
decks like red that didn't have a way to interact with enchantments.
Yep. Aside from Chaos Warp, and at that point in time, it was only in the original Commander release, so it was like infinite. And Legacy, you needed it in Legacy to answer enchantments, the exact same reason. Yeah. So it was like infinite, but that's it. You had those 2 cards. Yeah, 100%. Different world now. We don't everybody's got an answer. Even Black can answer enchantments now, which we didn't have back then.
Yeah.
But your point is still valid. This goes everywhere inside Commander. Now, that isn't to say that I believe this is a $10, $15, or $20 card. Sure. I think this is a crisp $5 bill all day long in the future. Yeah. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy to see this card costs as many dollars as it does mana. It's not Karn Lib. It doesn't win games. It's not a planeswalker. The backside is I would say wholly underwhelming unless you're playing 5C Niv.
Yeah.
The original
Niv to Light. Classic.
Yeah. The original, as your general.
Yeah.
As your commander.
Oh, yeah.
Because 5C Niv, the original 5C Niv, I think we were getting another one after the Aftermath spoiler.
Yeah.
That one promotes playing the guilds. So, yeah, the backside now has a hit. Some decks are only 2 colors, some 3. So, yeah, you might have some hits on that. But I don't think you're reliant on that battle. Because, like I said, they are, oddly obtuse. Purposefully obtuse and difficult to flip if they have a worthwhile rear, a worthwhile backside.
Yeah.
And so you're playing this primarily for the front side. I think that's the upside. This is one of the only battles, I believe, that has a really strong front side, even if it only triggers once. And I think it's a $5 front side. I don't think you can go wrong at, like I said, it's $1.50 now. I can't imagine it dips to $1.25 or $1. If it does all day long, just shove on it. But I think this is going to be really good. It sits in a binder. It looks decent. People are going to want to play an agnostic way to remove anything. Even black spells still have the terror style limitations. You can't kill a legendary. You can't kill an artifact. You can't kill a black creature. It can't have menace. For 2 mana, sure. But you tack on 3 more. You make it purely colorless, and you get almost anything.
Yeah.
I just think this is really good. Really, really good. Really undercosted.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, again, like you and I talked about, just having a colorless catch-all. This is like my get out of jail free card. Whatever deck I'm in, I can play this. I can exile it. Sure, the
Yeah.
backside exists. That's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
I just needed to kill something because sometimes you're just ready to go off and win, but someone has an Alish Norn and you're a token deck, and someone has Rule of Law and you need to storm. It just gives you ways to interact with all of that, which isn't something you necessarily have. And granted, I'm a sucker for modal cards and flexible cards, and this one is just like incredibly flexible catch-all.
Yeah. Also, pro tip, a lot of times when you cast Oblivion Stone and you sit on it, it's not because you don't have the mana to pop Oblivion Stone in Tron. It's because you're only going to kill one thing, and that's not enough value for the amount of mana you're spending because you'll live. This costs 5 compared to 8 of playing and popping Oblivion Stone. A lot more palatable.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned before that Nykthos played into your just right price card, and that's because my tabs were misaligned. It doesn't. It plays into the card that you believe is underpriced.
Yes. I believe underpriced right now, and this is one that's been getting a decent amount of press in a lot of the MTG finance sphere, is Hoarding Broodlord.
Okay, I have to ask, because it's good or because the art is just gnarly?
I think this card's great. The
Okay.
art is very 1980s high fantasy, though, and I fucking love it.
Yes.
It's 3 black and 5, 7/6 Convoke Flyer, because Convoke is in black now.
Why
Whatever.
not?
Anyways, ETB, exile a card face down from your library. Spells you cast from exile, and you can play it for as long as it remains exiled. Spells you cast from exile have Convoke. It's just it's Runescarred Demon with a better body,
Yeah.
with an easier way to cast the spells. Not only that, for as long as it remains exiled, you may play it is independent of Hoarding Broodlord existing on the battlefield. Now, Runescarred Demon's $8, and that's been printed a couple times. I could absolutely see this hitting an $8 price. Now, that said, timeline, we're looking at like a year or two. But it's less than $2 right now. That's insane. For any D-tutor. Actually, you know what? I'm going to look up real quick. I don't know what Diabolic Tutor is, but I bet it's probably about $2. We're at $1 for Diabolic Tutor, sorry. And that's with 12 printings or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
This card, even with collector boosters, even with set and draft boosters, this card is very, very, very good. Need a combo piece? Need removal? Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I'm going to get it.
It's got you.
And it's going to be exiled. And why I like the exile especially is because the amount of times that you vamp tutor to the top and it gets windfalled or it gets milled or something, or the amount of times that you demonic tutor and someone goes Wheel of Fortune and you're like, well, fuck me, I guess. It's gone. Like, that actually protects the spell.
Yep.
The fact that it is an ETB, I also love, because that makes it imminently abusable with blink effects, with clone effects, with reanimation effects. There's just a million ways to do it, and it is, of course, in the best tutor color, which obviously helps.
Yes.
I just don't see a card like this sitting at sub $2 forever, especially when it's in a very popular casual tribe.
Yeah.
Being a dragon automatically means it's worth more money because it's a dragon, and fantasy nerds love dragons and they love angels and life gain. So help me, I'm never building another one of those decks. Anyways, I just think this card's great.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to this card that people might overlook because it's just like, wow, this thing costs 8 mana. Yeah, but it has Convoke. Root has Convoke, so it doesn't cost 8. Okay, interesting. Now, the Exile clause is also interesting. You can still cast that card for as long as it remains exiled. You don't have to keep control of Hoarding Broodlord, which a lot of other times you do. You have to keep that card around. Then, after that, spells you cast from exile have Convoke. Gonti exiles. Ashiok exiles. There are a lot of cards that exile and allow you to cast them back. Mist Hollow Griffin, an interesting combo card, allows you to exile. Right? And if you're going that route, well, now you're just in Sultai because you're playing Food Chain, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
This card, I think, also has broad appeal across the competitive spectrum because of that. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. Yeah, Dragon, cool, but the rest of the text on the card, I think better.
Very good.
Yeah, I think when I read this the first time, my eyes just went cross-eyed. I'm like, I'm done, and I just didn't get through the card. And I've read it a couple times since, and it just, I think I found everything on this card that I need to find to know that it is a really, really good card. Like, it's better than Runescar Demon. And if I'm going to need an additional tutor that does something, I think I would probably look at this over Demon. It doesn't matter that this does cost more because, again, you have Convoke. But for me, it is the ability to protect that spell and cast it whenever. Just leaving that card outside your hand, outside the play space, because nobody plays like Rift Sweepers or Pull from Eternity.
Yeah.
Also, oddly enough, if you wanted to, you could process it into your graveyard for weirder shenanigans. There's a lot that this card does and a lot of doors it opens. And for that, I think this is another good look. It is a rare. And so we've been harping on that all episode, you know. But if I'm going to buy in, the rares are going to tank. I'm going to be happy to buy in anywhere from, let's say, 50 cents up to where it is now and expect that in time is when I'm going to make my money on this.
RuneScar, again, it may be a long time.
It took RuneScar Demon a very long time to get to where it is, and it was a cornerstone creature in Vintage for a fairly long time.
It was.
But this is definitely a card that obviously has legs. You can see it in the art. And has a pedigree for all of its abilities to be reasonable, to be decent, and to be sought after.
Yeah.
And so, again, I like this card. This is just a regular rare, so I'd wait. I'd wait to buy into the dip. I don't feel bad doing that. And if I miss the dip and I've got to buy around the price it is now in a week or two, I'm still happy about that. I'm okay with this overall. I had some honorable mentions overall. All up and down that were just kind of difficult to discuss because I couldn't, like, the one I wanted to talk a lot about, and it seems to kind of have gotten swept by, is Kroxa and Kurinos.
I think the card's really good.
I think it is good too, but the problem with Kroxa and Kurinos, and the reason I didn't talk about it, even though we talked about it up top before we actually went on air, is while this card is still sitting at the same 275 market that it has been this entire time, and I believe that is just right, I don't know what's going to happen with this card overall, so it's very difficult to come out and talk about. So Kroxa and Kurinos is 3 and Mardu, so 3 and 1 red, 1 white, 1 black for a 6/6. Vigilance, Menace, Lifelink. Whenever Kroxa and Kurinos enters the battlefield or attacks, you may exile 5 cards from your graveyard, period. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Well, why would I even bother talking about this card? Well, I would talk about this card because with Altar of Dementia, you mill your library in response to the ETB trigger.
Yeah.
You mill 6 because that is the power. You exile 5 and bring it back. So you leave 1 card every time.
Yep.
This card could do nothing and could be worth dirt. It could do everything and as a mythic, $10, $15.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like this when reading through the set where I just kind of like stumbled a lot and I couldn't quite figure out if these cards were good enough to talk about. There's the a 3 mana battle, 2 and a blue. You make 2 1/1 serpent tokens.
Yeah.
On the back, it's Goblin Electromancer 9 through 12 that also untaps 2 creatures. Who cares?
Yeah.
People are going nuts for the backside, but you have to get there first. You have to attack into that thing or remove the counters. Chump all day long. Block it. But it's just like I said, Goblin Electromancer 9 through 12. There's so many other options, even in hardier card types like artifacts and enchantments, that flipping it into a creature seems very weak. So for me, the review of this set was actually very difficult because I had these kind of like half-baked ideas like Crooks and Kurnos. Then some of the set just seemed really rancid, like that blue battle that I just mentioned.
The one that I had the hardest time evaluating out of the set was honestly Deeproot Wayfinder. It's the 2-mana 2/3. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or battle, surveil 1.
Oh, yeah.
Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. There's a home for this card. Somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not lands. But there is a home somewhere for this card. And when it finds that, this card, I think, could be, like, maybe in that Ledger Shredder category. I think that's a very, very high ceiling
Yeah.
for it. I don't think that's necessarily the most realistic, but I could see it getting there. And I would not be surprised if it does after, we see where it goes. But it's just, this was the hardest one for me to evaluate because I could have easily seen myself putting it in just right or undervalued. Both of those were probably right. Certainly not overvalued at like sub $1. I mean, that's, a bulk rare. That's fine. But this was the one that to me, I was like, I really don't know where this card goes.
I read that card a couple times at the pre-release, and the thought I kept having was Sylvan Advocate cost so much and did so many middling things in a standard format, but that price stuck for like a year because of that. And just turned into absolute poop. Sylvan Advocate also costs a colorless and a green for a 2/3. It has Vigilance. As long as you control 6 or more lands, Sylvan Advocate and land creatures you control get +2/+2. This is from Oath of the Gatewatch, so it really plays into the creature land idea and plays well alongside Deeproot Wayfinder because you're bringing lands back from your graveyard, so you can just power up the Advocate. And I think this is another one of those like kind of middling cards. It's like we have Wrenn and 6 in Modern, but you can have Wrenn and 6 in Standard.
Yeah. That's kind of like the worst Wrenn and 6 in Standard. Here we go.
Yeah, and that's how I read it. I thought, oh, that's kind of cute and neat, but what lands are you bringing back right now? This is similar.
Lotus Field, Field of the Dead. I mean, it's
in Standard.
Oh yeah, fair. Yeah, in Standard, no way.
In that one core set, we got Crucible of Worlds and Scapeshift, and I said, "There's no way." I'm pretty sure I'm on the podcast as saying, "There's no way." You put these two cards in Standard without a payoff, and it took until the next summer to get Field of the Dead. We went through the Rav set. I'm like, it's either going to be in the Rav set or we're going to get it right as these two cards go out of Standard. And sure enough, Field of the Dead
came out of Standard.
Yep, came in the core set over the summer. You had 3 months to play it all, and that was that. I think this is a card that is like projected.
Yeah,
I think we're going to get something because right now there's, as far as I know, nothing. It's just.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
The fast lands, the reprints from Scars, the pain lands from Ever, Ice Age and Invasion, and some odds and ends rare lands, the Mycosynth Gardens, which doesn't require a sacrifice. There's the land that adds and shifts oil counters. Not a lot of stuff you want to be sacrificing. We don't even have Fabled Passage anymore in Standard, so it's like, what are you doing with this card? And so I think this is a card that's foreshadowing something. Yeah. So yeah, it is really weird to evaluate 100%. At least Sylvan Advocate was in the second set in a block where they brought back creature lands.
Yeah.
In the first one and told you more were coming in the second one. So you knew.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, very difficult to evaluate. I like that you brought it up because if you can parallel this kind of card.
Yeah.
If you want to pick them up for when they're at bulk, go for it. Would I go like real deep on them? Probably not. But at bulk, what's the harm in getting min cost for zero shipping?
Yeah.
$5 worth of Deeproot Wayfinders off TCG Player. Probably not the worst in the long run. So
seems fine.
Yeah. So yeah, this set was like an interesting struggle to go over. This is probably the least amount of cards I've had in a list for one of these episodes.
Yeah, by far. I had like 5, and Deeproot Wayfinder was one of them where I was like, I can't say for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Period. Ended. So I think that sounds like it covers everything, and we're ready to move into picks.
Picks,
All right,
which
what do you got?
I will get started. Well, Solitude.
Yep.
Look, the elementals are at a low point. We're not in modern season right now, but it's easy enough to look at what happened to Pioneer Staples when they announced Pioneer season and the lands went up 40 to 50%. Croxa went up to $30 to $50. This stuff happens.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's a world where we don't get a modern season. And I'm shouting out Solitude, although this is more of like a market call for cards like Subtlety, Three Fairy, stuff like that that's just played. Solitude, according to MTG Goldfish, is the 45th most played card in Modern at 12%. It is also, I think, like, let's see, what is it? I think 13th most played creature. And obviously, Ragavan's above it.
Yep.
Murktide Regent's above it. Darcy's above it. Like, the stuff that you know is going to be above it is above it.
Yeah.
But this card is very widely played. I think that the elementals in general are good. We've kind of hit a lull in MH2, where obviously there's still some stock sticking around, but most everything that is a staple from MH2 has hit its floor. We're at a steady, stable, this is what it's going to be as long as there's no modern season.
Mm-hmm.
And once the modern season happens, I would fully expect this to get back to that like $50 price point that it was for ages after the set came out.
Yeah.
Right now sitting at about 30. Obviously, there's a world where you can buy list that pretty quickly if it happens. Now, in terms of buy quantity, I mean, a lot of these are in the 2 to 4 line, right? You're playing between 2 and 4. Solitude's one of those ones where you're typically always playing 4. So I'd be picking up regular play sets, not EDH sets, not less than 4, but I probably wouldn't go more than 2 or 3 sets deep. Obviously, the cost is part of that. There's always the possibility that we get some ridiculous secret lair with this stuff because Wizards doesn't acknowledge the secondary market, and that could tank it. Now, in terms of timeline, kind of up to Wizards, right? I mean, we have our next Pro Tour set. We don't know what it's going to be after that. Maybe they'll make it standard. I doubt that because of Arena and their push to drive standard there. I think it is more likely that we do get a modern season after that. And I think at that point, you can very easily see this climbing up back to those $50 levels that we had before.
Yep.
And at that point, you can trade out. You can probably profitably buy list to some of the hot lists. This past weekend, a lot of the elementals were on multiple hot lists for TCG low. So it's clearly something that vendors need, that they're moving.
Yes.
So possibility exists there. I just think it's a good market call out because by the time we get an announcement, it's going to be far, far, far too late to capitalize on it. If you remember what happened to like Spire Bluff Canal, they announced Pioneer season. By 6 a.m. the next day, it was back to being a $20 card overnight when up from 7. That's the kind of thing that you could see here. Obviously, it's not a land, so it's not as foundational, but it is an incredibly relevant threat to the format. Three Fairies relevant, Fury's relevant, Ragavan's relevant. There's a lot of cards here that fit this mold, but this was just the one that I chose to like, hey, market call out guys. If there's anything you really, really like for Modern, or Saga, for example, pick it up now.
Yep. I think it's a good look overall for a lot of this stuff. And Solitude in particular. Before I knew you wanted to do this as a market call out, I thought Solitude was just a good look anyway.
Yeah.
After the bans that we had in Modern that effectively cut the legs out of the Omnath deck, Solitude just didn't really dip that hard. It's come back.
Still the card it is.
Yep. Instead of being in the high 40s, it's in the mid 40s. Maybe a little lower than that. It lost maybe 10% overall, but it still has a decent market share. Moving into Modern season overall, the one thing we haven't had on this is constant eyes from the noted pros, and whatever they're going to come up with for Modern. A lot of people like to settle on Control because it gives the pilot more options, more decisions, which means the better players can capitalize on that. And Control decks overall, namely Azorius, pretty light in the metagame, but this is a staple in that deck. Somewhere in the 1 to 2 range, I think this is the...
Yeah.
I don't know how they build. Do you play 1? Do you play 2? Don't really know. But... Oh, apparently, Jeskai plays 4. Who knew? Okay, so there you go.
TIL.
So, exactly. So at that point in time, it didn't really matter. We're not in an era where every control deck just played one and then it was going to ephemerate it for a while. People aren't really doing that. They're just running it out. They're just jamming. And so overall, I like the idea of Solitude in and of itself. Diversifying into Modern, also never really a bad idea if you have a local Modern meta, because it's always nice to be able to serve that. You know, people are popping Ragavans. We were talking about this past weekend. Ragavan had a price going into that weekend. Just regular. There didn't seem like anybody cared if it was alt art from MH2 or not. Knowing full well that what frame did it get? Not Mystical Archives. The Invention frame.
Yeah,
it has
Invention, that's right. Yep.
Knowing full well that people were going to pop the Invention frame on-prem. Still a sought-after card.
Yeah.
It just means that there's more out there now for people to pick up and stock in their binders to be able to better serve.
Yeah.
So this is a good time to take a look at the Modern meta, see what's going on, and then take a position. I think it's very difficult to really lose on a lot of this stuff, and capitalization on some of the, from a price point, underserved cards because they're not really moving, like Solitude, like Saga, a good look. Some multi-format staples, also a good look right now. I think Fable might still be on the way up because it's doing things in Standard, but it is a cheaper buy-in overall. More people do play that because it reaches all the way down to Legacy. So there's still opportunity there. This is another time for you to really decide what you want to be doing with MTG Finance and kind of make your own way here. But a good place to start with this. For me, I am going back to the Commander well. I guess I never really left. How often?
Never.
How often do I stray? Not often. And I'm looking at a card that for me was kind of a pet card for a while, but not as one to play, but just to watch. And it is Stoneforge Masterwork. This is a piece of equipment that costs 1. It equips for 2 colorless, and it says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So Stoneforge Masterwork is basically just coat of arms for 1 creature. Cool. And I just had the stocks graph up, and you can see that it's just a nice, steady 2x1 slope. We're just looking at a card that just keeps going up and up and up over time, but it's not going up by leaps and bounds. No. So I added this to my list in February of 2022. Card Kingdom was buying 75 at $1.30. There were 165 on TCG Player at $2.25, and those numbers have moved in our favor over time. As far as Card Kingdom is going, when I was taking my notes, they were buying 43 at $1.50, which was an uptick on both numbers. As of today, somebody has fulfilled that a little bit, and they're only buying 35 at $1.35. TCG Player, however, 172 listings at $2.94 a piece. So we did see a nice 30-35% gain in terms of market price in about a year, which is nice. Now, as far as the Commander playability on this goes, well, this is basically just for tribe and job-based decks, and they're just looking to win primarily through combat, and they just want to utilize this as either the Deathstroke or as a piece of the kit. And we'll talk a little bit more about the difference. Now, overall, when we're looking at the format, you pick an aggressive tribe or job, and the slot's right in. It's similar to Coat of Arms, but less punishing, as this isn't a symmetrical buff. Now, what I mean by that is Coat of Arms is all creatures. Not all creatures you control, all creatures on the board. So if I'm sitting here and I'm actually playing a tribal deck, and you're playing, let's go back to, is it Spellslinger? Chances are you're probably going to have a lot of humans. That's a tribe. Oftentimes, those creatures are also wizards. Cool, that's a creature type, despite it being a job. But now your creatures get to benefit from Coat of Arms, much like mine, and that makes combat really weird when you're trying to figure this out. Stoneforge Masterwork, non-symmetrical. Now, Coat of Arms, Vanquisher's Banner, Herald's Horn, all these seem to make up a bit of a package that you'll see in most of these kinds of decks that also need a bit of a helping hand. So something like Slivers and Elves aren't necessarily in the market for these kinds of effects, as they have their own unique profiles that, in the case of Slivers, can overwhelm their other shared mechanics. In the case of Elves, be something as low-key as a Comet Storm or the myriad of overrun effects already available to them. This suite sits well inside the wheelhouse of creature decks that can get to the board but have problems representing lethal or a game-winning turn. In a deck like Cats, which just got Kemba, or a new Kemba, I should say, where you just want to put as many hats on your commander to start one-shotting people, this helps. This is the difference between like delivering a death stroke and just wanting to help supplement. Masterwork allows you to one-shot with your commander compared to Coat of Arms, which powers up the crew.
Yeah.
In a deck like Goblins and Soldiers, this can help diversify your threat base and make blocking much less profitable for your opponents. And of course, this works well in creature decks that offer unblockability via something like Rogue's Passage, or via an ability like on Ketsu Orochi Archmage. Granted, Snakes is a weird kind of tribe, so what you're going to do in Simic doesn't matter. It's just the fact that this thing has a cool activated ability. It's just like, my creature can't be blocked now.
Yep.
And I'm a big proponent of winning via combat, and something like this holds appeal across all types of play groups, short of CEDH. It's not overbearing, and it's a pretty easy problem to solve, quote unquote. So we have that broad base appeal. And what I mean by that is like, you can just hit it with a Crozen Grip, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's cool. This one thing's gone. It's not an overwhelming problem. It's not Craterhoof, Pathbreaker, Ibex, Thunder, Herd, Baloth. It's not those. It's not Pain Bacon. It doesn't pump the entire team when it ETBs, so now somebody has to deal with the rest of your board. Nope. One piece of targeted removal takes care of the equipment, takes care of the threat. Fairly palatable. It gets around that weird taboo that I upcycle every now and again about winning with Craterhoof. Nope. Timeline. This has really only sold about 200 LP and near mint copies a month on TCG Player over the last 4 months. And with a gaining buy list number, it feels like they should pop sooner rather than later, especially with the release of the Knights Commander deck. So that's why we're coming back to this well.
Yeah.
I don't think that people are going to see this card on rec and move in the short term, so I think this will instead be a longer term hold, as we're having to wait for it to hit stocks and or a content creator stream. So we're back to this again. I'm basically looking at 6 months out at a minimum to flip to buy list, but if you wanted to flip into the open market, you're probably looking at closer to 3 months as the market dries up. And that's not like 3 months turning into 2, that's 4 months turning into 3, as this is just kind of a consistent but low volume seller. Right now on TCG Player, we're down from the 172 listings when I took my notes at 2 days ago to 160 listings. So we can see this is moving, but just pretty slowly.
Yeah.
Reprint equity is a little odd. Stone forging as a concept seems to be locked to Zendikar, so we'd have to go back again to see this reprinted in a standard set. However, I would expect this to be in a tribal or job-based commander precon, but again, like I talked about last week, this is another card that WotC seems to dodge when looking at options. I don't know why they choose to just kind of backtrack on stuff like this or Junk Diver, Sithis, but they do. They like new options, not old options. Odd, but here we are. If it does hit a commander precon, that might put a wrinkle in the work, but it could also help us a little bit because, as I mentioned, until this hits stocks or a content creator stream, I don't think people are going to see this on rec and really remember it's a card, or even remember it's a card for that matter. So visibility of any sort might actually help us here. So a reprint could actually be a boon.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this to me is one of the most underappreciated equipments in EDH especially. Because the tribes that want it, like you mentioned, you don't want it in elves. You don't really need it in fish.
Nope.
But most of your equipment-based strategies, you're just incidentally going to have a ton of pump for this.
Yeah.
And it is very effective at 1 mana casting cost, 2 mana equip. And if you're in the full-on Voltron with like pure steel and everything else, it's just an easy 1-drop that can, in some cases, double your commander's power.
Yeah.
Which is just huge.
Yeah.
And like you said, reprint equity, like it's not. We got to go back to Zendikar. And it's not the kind of card that to me screams Secret Lair printing.
Nope.
Because the value's not really there yet. But it is just a really good lower end, if you want to call it that, piece of equipment that really does just slide into all of the equipment decks that incidentally have a ton of humans, have a ton of knights, have a ton of whatever. Yeah, it's and stuff like this that's just generically good in bulk strategy, in this case Voltron equipment, whatever, aggro in general.
Yes.
This just slides into it pretty well. And, you know, similar to Save the Queen strategy kind of deal, with Shark Typhoon at home, you can just, you know, suit up Aurelia with this, and if you have like Luminarch Ascension or something, you're just slamming all day.
Yeah, you're off to the races, exactly. And like from a buy perspective, like I have a bunch of these from playing that standard era, and I think honestly, like between the non-foils and the foils, it's probably somewhere around a playset. I think I'd go for like two playsets on top of that, so that's like 3 total. So you're looking at spending like maybe $40 for a bunch of these.
It's not much.
No. And at the end of the day, I think this becomes a more served piece of equipment across the entirety of the format. At the point that you made it is really good. I didn't even think about like Voltron style decks or really heavy equipment decks, because in my mind it's just like, okay, you want to hit with, you know, Kiri Line Slinger or whatever. Yeah. You look back and you see like Isamaru used to be the go-to. Now there's the mono white thing from, is it Battle Bond, that sucks up all the equipment?
Yep.
And I don't think about the supporting cast for that card. I just think about casting the commander, slapping a bunch of stuff on it and going. But how do you get there? How do you get to all those pieces of equipment? Stoneforge Mystic,
Enlightened Tutor, Steel Shaper's Gift. My personal favorite, Stonehewer Giant.
Stonehewer Giant, yeah. And to your point, there is this supporting cast of creatures that do go at Pure Steel Paladin, go into this. And there is a lot of overlap. And if you're looking to get in with your general, then your breakpoints are basically 7, 11, and 21.
Yep.
And that's it. That's 1, 2, and 3 attacks with your general. So even one additional creature of the same type can put in some work. And at the end of the day, if you want to be playing some goofy-ass tribe like Angels, here you go.
Here's a big one. You know, you want to, I like a Miri Angel. Let me throw this on there. Like, there's a lot of ways that this can help out.
We talked about Giada, and we've talked about Angel decks twice and ways to basically restock. Well, you know, as you're restocking, this makes every single one of them that can attack on its own a huge threat. Yeah. Premier. So I think this is just right now an under-the-radar, underserved card that can eventually pick up in both value and playability.
Yep.
The other thing that I found interesting is like on Stoneforge Mystic, this is just like tinfoil hat time, right? Stoneforge Mystic in both printings is Stoneforging a sword, right? It's got that. Stoneforge Masterwork is a chest piece.
Yeah.
Gauntlets, and maybe helm. So we have a weapon, and we have all of our armor except our boots. So the next Stoneforge piece, tinfoil hat, is going to be the pair of boots. And it's not going to be like Cauldra style, like putting it all together. I just think that might be like the next step and kind of play into the idea that I don't think we're going to get a reprint of this thing. We're going to get something else weird that Stoneforges. Because even the original Nahiri Planeswalker, the mono white one from that year, she
was Stoneforge.
The Lithomancer. Okay.
Yeah, Lithomancer.
Yes, Nahiri the Lithomancer was the
attach an equipment.
Well, it makes something.
Oh yeah, it makes a core soldier token. You can attach an equipment for free, and then -2 put an equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield.
It's the alt. Put a colorless
Oh,
equipment
yep,
artifact
yep.
token named Stoneforged,
Stoneforged Blade.
So that's it. So Nahiri makes the Stoneforged Blade. That's our weapon.
Yeah.
Masterwork is the gauntlets, the chest piece, and the helm. So now we need our boots, right? If we're literally Stoneforging equipment, we need our boots and maybe some stuff for a horse. And that's about it.
Yeah.
So this
Done
is just,
after that.
Yeah. Tinfoil hatting. We'll get boots next. We don't have to worry about a reprint. So
I bet it gives haste and indestructible.
yeah, it is for 10. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But it pluses for 2. Woohoo.
Yeah.
But anything else?
Nope.
All right.
It does it.
So because this was our March of the Machine look ahead, look at next week will be our 1 review.
Yes.
Right? For actually all of you.
Look back at our picks and see what did we fuck up.
Yep. Because I kept thinking it was Brothers War was the last set. There's one in between. But we will get
Too many.
there. Yep. We will get there next week. But for MTG Cabalcast on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and YouTube, I am at Halt, I am Reptar, you are...
At Thirsty Sizzler.
And we'll see you next week.